Have you ever looked at someone else's success and silently thought, why not me? Why is their path so smooth, their talent so natural, while you struggle to keep up, despite giving it your all? Maybe you've been there. Maybe you're still there. But what if your problem isn't your effort, your intelligence, or your ability? What if the real problem is the question itself? In this story, you'll meet a boy who carried that same weight, the weight of comparison. His name is David. His story may sound simple at first, but hidden within it are 3 life-changing lessons. Lessons not just for him, but for all of us. So I ask you this: what if you've been measuring your success with the wrong ruler all along? And what if your greatest strength isn't something you have to find, but something you already carry within you? This isn't just another motivational story. It's a mirror. And by the end, you may just see yourself more clearly than ever before. Let's begin. David was a 6th grade boy living in a quiet neighborhood. One afternoon, he sat silently at his desk, a math book open in front of him, but his eyes were lost in thought. He had just received another low grade, and one question echoed in his mind. Why can't I be as good as Michael? Michael, his friend and classmate, seemed to succeed effortlessly. He always had the right answers, always got praise, while David struggled despite trying his best. Slowly, the frustration turned into self-doubt. It wasn't just about math anymore. It was about feeling like he wasn't enough, simply because he couldn't match someone else's strength. His father entered the room quietly. He didn't need to ask what was wrong, he could see it. But instead of lecturing, he sat beside David and gently said, "I have 3 small challenges for you. 1 each day. Try them, and you might discover something important." David didn't fully understand, but something in his father's calm voice sparked curiosity. And from that moment, his journey of change began. The next day, under a bright and cheerful sky, David invited Michael to join him for a game of soccer at the local field. For David, the soccer field was sacred ground, where he felt alive, capable, and confident. With practiced ease, he weaved through defenders, his movements fluid like a dancer's, scoring 3 goals without breaking a sweat. Michael, on the other hand, fumbled. He missed passes, lost the ball, and seemed completely out of place. After the game, as they walked home together, David couldn't hide his confusion. Was this really the lesson my father meant? Later that evening, when he shared what had happened, his father smiled calmly and said, "You're strong where Michael is weak, just as he's strong where you struggle. Every person carries a different gift. You were never meant to be the same." Something softened in David's heart at that moment. For the first time, he looked at Michael without envy and at himself without judgment. What once felt like failure now began to feel like individuality. And with that, the first layer of his self-doubt quietly peeled away. The next day, David took on his second challenge, not with a ball at his feet, but with curiosity in his eyes. All through school, he observed Michael silently. During class, Michael tapped his pencil as he worked through math problems with ease. At lunch, he solved a number puzzle from his workbook while others chatted. During recess, he helped a classmate count change from the snack cart. Even when they passed a flower bed on the way home, Michael casually counted petals on a bloom, smiling as he did it. What David saw wasn't just talent, it was habit. Math wasn't a subject Michael crammed for. It was something he lived. That night, David shared what he had seen. His father nodded and said softly, "He practices every day, just like you do with soccer. That's why he's good." For a moment, David paused. Then a small smile appeared. Maybe math wasn't a mystery, and Michael wasn't magical. Maybe it was just that simple. What you love, you naturally repeat, and what you repeat, you get better at. And just like that, something shifted in David. The wall between him and learning cracked open, not with pressure, but with possibility. David faced the final challenge with fierce determination. If Michael was 3 times better at math, then he would study 3 times harder. That evening, he opened his book, set a timer, and began. 1 hour passed, then 2. By the 3rd, his handwriting grew shaky, and numbers began to blur. His head throbbed, his eyelids drooped, and before he realized it, sleep overtook him at the desk. When his father gently woke him for dinner, David's voice cracked with guilt. "I'm sorry. I failed. I couldn't finish." But instead of disappointment, his father gave him a calm, knowing smile. "David," he said softly, "this is what happens when you force yourself to master something you don't love. Discipline becomes a burden. But when you love something, like you love soccer, discipline feels light. You don't push through it, you flow with it." Then came the word that stayed with David long after. If you want to succeed, study what you love, or learn to love what you study. In that moment, David realized that success isn't only about how hard you try, it's about how much heart you bring to the effort. Passion is the fuel. Without it, even the strongest will runs dry. But with it, even the hardest path becomes walkable. Then came the words that stayed with David long after. If you want to succeed, study what you love, or learn to love what you study. In that moment, David realized that success isn't only about how hard you try. It's about how much heart you bring to the effort. Passion is the fuel. Without it, even the strongest will runs dry. But with it, even the hardest path becomes walkable. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and bathed the backyard in golden light, David stood quietly, with a football in his hands. The grass beneath his feet felt familiar, but something inside him had changed. He no longer looked at himself through the lens of who he wasn't, but through the quiet clarity of who he was becoming. He understood now that success wasn't about becoming someone else. It was about honoring his own strengths, nurturing his passions, and walking patiently with his weaknesses, not against them. The comparisons that once burdened his heart had been replaced with compassion, for others and for himself. As the first star appeared above the trees, David looked up and whispered a quiet promise. "I'll never forget who I am, and I'll grow from there." And in that moment, he didn't just feel stronger, he felt free.